Peter in Houston, and he says hello, and he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Peter, welcome. How are you today? What do you have for me?
Happy New Year, doggy. Thanks.
You got it, Pete. What's up now?
There were two games I wanted to talk about, and it's one of those things. The bigger one is the first one. You think back to week 3. Atlanta played Detroit. Detroit got hosed at the end of the game. They scored what they thought was a game-winning touchdown. The dope in New York overturned it.
I thought it was the correct call, but go ahead, fire away.
But it wasn't just the call. If they ruled it right on the field that it wasn't an overturn,
they would have had time for another play. I understand. Yep.
Exactly, and because of that, not only is Atlanta in and Detroit out, but Jim Caldwell is likely out of a job.
Yeah, he's had plenty of chances, so you can't spin it on the one game. He never wins a big game. I don't think he's a great coach. I don't have a major issue with what the Lions did. I know you're nitpicking to one play in one game, and you're right. If you take it the next level, they would be in the postseason. I think Atlanta is very lucky to be 10-6. They were lucky to beat the Bears, lucky to beat Detroit. They had a ball in the end zone in the Saints game late. They could have lost. They are very fortunate to be where they are. That I completely agree with. I don't know if that would have saved Caldwell's job, though. That's the first thing.
I don't know if it would have saved his job, but like you said, it's one of those interesting things. The other thing I wanted to point out, the other play was just as egregious. It was that snow game between the Bills and the Colts. The Colts scored the touchdown, and then they scored a go-ahead 2-point conversion. And you have to watch the play. I remember I watched that game very intently. Colts scored that 2-point conversion. 15 seconds later, it felt like, the ref threw a flag for offensive pass interference, which negated that play. The announcers were all over it. They couldn't understand where that flag came from. Of course, Vinatieri hits the extra point, and the Bills win in overtime. But if that play stands, and you'll have to watch that play, dog, even find the replay, the Bills don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. Two good ones you came up with. Now, there's always games like that, but two good ones you came up with. Brian in Jersey's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Brian, good afternoon. How are you today, pal?
Hey, Chris. Happy New Year.
Hey, Brian boy. Your Rams. Boy, could it be a daily double with Houston and then the Rams, Brian? How good would that be?
Hey, let's hope so. First step is getting in the playoffs, so we'll see what happens.
I love them to beat Atlanta. They got a bad break. The Saints lost because they got wrapped up with Minnesota in that second round. Go ahead.
You know what, though, Chris? And I wanted to make a college football point first, but, regarding the Rams, Chris, I have to be fair. I think Carolina would have beat the Rams in the first round. Like everyone was talking about the Rams playing the Eagles. I did not like the matchup. The Rams have a big-time problem stopping the run, and the way Newton can run and the way Carolina runs the ball. I just was, it was bothering me that everyone was saying, get in the Eagles bracket. I think Carolina would be a harder matchup for them, so I wasn't all that disappointed.
I understand that. I thought of the same thing, and the Panthers are good on the road, and Newton has got an aspect to him that Matt Ryan doesn't have. I can see where you're going there. That's fair. The Rams will be interesting, though. Saturday night Atlanta, see if they put 80,000 in there. That'll be interesting, that playoff game. Go ahead.
Definitely would. Chris, two things real quick here about the college football, and I'm not as big a college football fan as I used to be, but you know what, Chris? I think what you talked about before the other day with too much football, I think we're just getting old, Chris, truthfully, because, I'm in my mid-40s, and in the 80s, I could tell you verbatim, New Year's Day, Outback Bowl at 11, Gator Bowl and the Cotton Bowl at 1, Fiesta Bowl and the Rose Bowl at 4 and 4:30, then the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl at night, and I couldn't get enough of it. It wasn't too much football at that time, but as I've gotten older, and obviously, you as well, there just seems to be other things that take your interest away. So, it wasn't too much football years ago when they were having those games like that. So I think that's it. And then
there weren't 40 bowl games either, to be fair. There were not.
No, that's true. That's true, but I just, you talked about the day yesterday, just, all the games. And, Chris, here's the other thing, and I know that this will never happen, but here's your answer. Play both games at the same time. Because, Chris, you bring up the Miami-Nebraska game from '84 at the Orange Bowl, and I don't know the game, but I know when that national championship game was being decided, the Sugar Bowl was being played at the exact same time in New Orleans.
There's too much money nowadays, Brian. They're not going to do that. ESPN's got the rights. They're going to spread the games out. I have an issue Listen, now part of it, I should have handled the day differently yesterday. I should have basically stayed away from football until 5 o'clock and not watch anything and, go to a movie or something. I could have done that, but, I sort of sat down at 1 o'clock. It's New Year's Day. The last thing I wanted to do is, go out there and drive in minus 4-degree weather. So I get that, but I do think that I got worn out. By 9 o'clock, I was worn out. I hate to be in this situation. I watched the Clemson game yesterday with Alabama more out of obligation than love. And that's rare for me to say that. We continue. Mad Dog.